and you're feeling like, "Oh, I don't know how much longer I can do this." In this video, I've got 2 simple but super important tips that you can use to get started with carnivore, to restart carnivore, and to stick with carnivore over the long term. So let's get into it. One of the awesome things about the carnivore diet is when you get started on carnivore, you start to notice almost immediately improvements in your health. Those could be improvements with things like anxiety, depression, brain fog, how clear everything suddenly becomes. It could be your sleep improving. It could be joint pain going away. It could be that arthritis that you've lived with for 20 years suddenly disappearing. There are so many things that can improve and just improve out of the blue that it's almost impossible for people to remember how many things have improved for them when you ask them about it. So this forms the basis of one of the tips that I'm going to give you. And of course, when you're getting started with carnivore, when you're restarting carnivore after you've kind of fallen off the wagon or you've had a break, it can be really tough because your body still has those cravings. You've got those habits that you normally go through every day, whether it's, having a snack at 10 o'clock in the morning or having that super sugary drink from Starbucks in the afternoon, whatever it happens to be. You've got all those habits, you've got all those kind of cravings still built up. So you need to break away from them. And one of the more effective ways I think that you can break away from those things is remember what's improving. So what you need to do when you're starting carnivore, when you're restarting carnivore, you need to start paying attention to what's happening with your body. And for this, I would advise having some kind of notebook that you just carry around with you, or maybe you can make notes on your smartphone or something like that. So what you want to do is throughout the day, you want to keep a record of what pain is happening within your body, what problems you're experiencing in your body. So you might wake up in the morning, struggle to get out of bed because your knees are locked up, or you've got back pain and you have to balance on things to get out of bed, something like that, right? What you want to do is when you experience that, you want to write that down. Okay? So trouble getting out of bed in the morning, back pain. And after you get started with carnivore, when the same time of the day that you found that problem, day 1, day 2, day 3, you want to be writing down, okay, back pain starting to go, could stand up more easily today, felt so flexible, whatever it happens to be, just so that you've got this comparison, so that, when you're having those weak moments, you can kind of look back and think, that's right. That's how bad I felt before. That's how awful it was when I couldn't get out of bed properly in the morning, when I couldn't sleep, when I couldn't do this, when I couldn't do that. Is the donut really worth it? If I have that donut, I'm going backwards. And this serves as a really good motivational tool when you are feeling those cravings, when you're feeling that urge to kind of, I'm a bit tired of the steak and eggs, I'm a bit tired of just eating the same thing all the time, or, whatever it is that makes you feel like breaking the carnivore way of eating. All right, so that's number 1. Just keep a note of what problems you have and how they're improving day to day. And again, it's just as you notice something, oh, my back's not sore anymore, write it down. Okay, and that's going to act as a really good way of comparing, day to day. The second thing, and I think actually this is probably the most important thing you can do, when you get started with carnivore, or again, when you're restarting, you want to focus on one day at a time. You don't want to focus out more than one day. And there's a reason for this, and I'll talk about that. So when you're giving something up, and in this case with carnivore, you're basically giving up carbohydrates, right? You're excluding carbohydrate from your diet. And so giving up carbohydrates is as difficult or more difficult than giving up things like smoking, giving up alcohol, giving up all the kind of addictions that we have, right? And think about if you've ever been a drinker or a smoker or addicted to some kind of drug. Think about when you give up, you feel good for that first day until during that first day you kind of project out and you think, how am I going to do this for a month? I can do this for a day, but how am I going to do this for a month? Or how am I going to, I can't be without this particular thing. I can't be without cigarettes. I can't be without alcohol. I can't be without drugs, whatever it is, for a year. How am I going to cope? How am I going to cope in those social situations? How am I going to cope at those really desperate times? How am I going to cope when, everything's gone wrong in a day and I've got no one to turn to? I'm going to need to turn to that thing, right? So you can see that's why it's so hard to give up these vices, right? Because you give the smoking up for half a day, start thinking like this, and then take it back up again. You just think, oh, I'm never going to be able to do this. What's the point? And the same thing happens with carbohydrate. When you trying to get the sugar and all the junk out of your diet, all the ultra processed foods out of your diet, and you're also giving up fruit and vegetables, and you're thinking, okay, well, I've made it half the day. But then you start to think, yeah, but how am I going to give this up for the next month? How am I going to give this up for the next year, or however long it takes me to get over these cravings? It just seems impossible, right? So what you need to do is you need to focus on just day one, right? Get through day one. Get into bed that night without cheating. That's all you need to focus on. Don't look out into the future at all. Okay? And what's going to happen is you wake up on day 2 and you'll have 2 immediate thoughts. The first one is, I did it. I did it. Oh my goodness, I did it. I feel awesome. I did it. And then the second thought you're going to have is, I slept so much better and I feel so much better and my head feels clearer this morning. This is amazing. And just those 2 things together is going to build your resolution or your resolve just that little bit. All right. So now day 2, your resolve is just that touch better or stronger than it was on day 1. And now on day 2, again, you just need to focus on getting through day 2. That's all you need to do. You don't have to look out into the future. Just focus on getting to bed on day 2 without eating any carbohydrate at all, or without drinking any carbohydrate at all. And then you wake up on day 3, and what happens? You have those 2 thoughts again. I did it. I did it again. This is awesome. I got through 2 days without having any carbohydrates. And second point, I feel so good. I'm feeling so much better. And then your resolve is going to be turned up a notch again. So you're going to be a little bit stronger, and you just keep focusing on this one day at a time, and keep doing this, and maybe for 2 weeks, for a month, until you get those cravings completely out of your system. Because make no mistake, you're still, during those day 1, day 2, day 3, you're still going to have moments during the day where you kind of feel a bit more tired than you would normally because you haven't got that sugar to perk you up. You're still going to have moments where you feel like, oh, I could just go a donut, or I could just go a whatever it is. But just focusing on a day at a time makes it much, much easier. And remember, your resolve is going to be so strong every single morning. And so every single morning is like a reset for you, right? So even if you go to bed on the night of day 4 and you're feeling like, oh, I don't know how much longer I can do this. This is going to be really difficult. This is just, the cravings are so strong, or my just my habits, they're still so strong. Don't worry about it. Go to bed. You're already in bed. Get to bed on day 4. When you wake up on day 5, your resolve is going to be stronger. And again, waking up in the morning, that's like a reset for you, right? So you're not going to be waking up with those cravings going, oh, I need something. It won't be like that, right? You're going to wake up and you're going to, again, you'll feel those two good feelings. I did it and I feel better than I ever have before. And again, just the fact of having been asleep and waking up, that's resets. You haven't got those cravings anymore. And every day it's going to get less and less. Your resolve gets stronger and the cravings get less and less. And before you know it, you've been carnivore for a month. Before you know it, you're saying, you know what? I did a month. I can do 2 months. And, before you know it, you're at 6 months, you're at a year, and there's no looking back. And you can see all the things that improve for me in this video.